Africa is home to more than 1.2 billion people, 54 recognized states, and thousands of ethnic groups. Yet the continent is overwhelmed with geopolitical problems, from the rebels in Mali to the Chinese-backed economic projects and Angola's transition of power. There are many fundamental changes occurring in Africa, and in this analysis we will go over the biggest developments that await 2017. My name is Shirvan and welcome to Caspian Report. We start our journey in Nigeria. Last year, low energy prices drained the economy. Boko Haram wreaked havoc in the countryside, and the Niger Delta militants resumed attacks on the country's energy infrastructure. Many of these ongoing issues will continue in 2017. On the plus side, however, President Buhari has shown a genuine interest in fighting corruption. Last year, he personally supervised many high-profile inquiries. Already tens of millions of dollars have returned to the national economy. Currently, the president is seeking to pass a bill to enhance the judicial system. Buhari is also trying to establish the Special Crimes Court Bill, which is designated to expedite corruption-related trials. However, the Nigerian president's fight against corruption has made him a lot of enemies, even within his own All Progressives Congress party. Many lawmakers and officials from the previous administrations feel threatened and have delayed the plans to set up a new court system. Overall, many expect that in 2017, internal opposition against the anti-corruption measures will increase. Yet perhaps Nigeria's biggest predicament is something more obvious, namely Buhari's deteriorating health. In January 2017, the 74-year-old president took a medical trip to the UK. Then, in early February, he asked the Nigerian parliament to indefinitely extend his leave of absence. Now, the country has been down this road before in 2010 when Vice President Jonathan, after replacing the president, ascended to power and triggered an internal power struggle. The same could happen again in 2017. An untimely end to Buhari's administration will shift power to Vice President Osinbajo. In turn, this could revive the old rivalry between North and South Nigeria. To learn more about Nigeria's internal politics, check out our Geopolitical report. Elsewhere in the Sahel region, Boko Haram, emboldened by the Libyan arms route, will continue its path of death and destruction. We talked about the growing influence of Boko Haram in last year's analysis. Still, considering the low media exposure, the humanitarian catastrophe in the Sahel region may come as a shock to many viewers. The activities of Boko Haram and other jihadist groups in Mali, Niger, Chad, Cameroon, and Nigeria have uprooted more than 4 million civilians. The range of Boko Haram's operations have even extended into Burkina Faso and the Ivory Coast. The thing is, the fight against the jihadist groups is so tense that many governments have actually neglected their own civilians. At the present, there is inadequate relief to the humanitarian disaster. This neglect by the government creates a sense of alienation for the local communities, and it lays the foundations for future insurgencies. Further, in the Sahel region, in Mali, the 2015 peace agreement between the government and the Tuareg rebels have yet to be implemented. Many analysts are concerned that the failure to enforce the peace treaty is setting the groundwork for a new round of hostilities. Moreover, discontent within the main rebel coalition is growing. More and more groups are splitting off and forming new rebel movements. This contributes to a proliferation of armed gangs, which result in more violence in Mali. Plus, a fragmented rebellion makes a new peace deal even more complicated. Further east, the civil war in South Sudan will enter its 4th year. As explained in the 2016 analysis, the peace agreement between President Kiir and Vice President Machar was abandoned, and the forces of the latter made serious territorial gains in 2016. The fighting has resulted in mass atrocities as well as high casualties and overall destruction. President Kiir called for new diplomatic talks in December 2016. Still, however, whether the negotiations will succeed or not depends on the willingness of the involved parties to make new compromises. elections. But there are also concerns that Kiir will bypass main opposition leader Machar and instead settle a deal with splinter opposition groups. As for the peacekeeping efforts, not only does the current UN mission lack the resources to prevent further hostilities, but the government of Kiir is actively seeking to undermine international intervention. For instance, in January 2017, the South Sudanese government rejected a UN proposal to deploy an additional 4,000 peacekeepers in the country. So given the circumstances, it's safe to say that violence in South Sudan will continue in 2017. In Ethiopia, the ethnic Tigray-dominated government is struggling to maintain its authority. Members of the Oromo people, as well as ethnic Amharas, have launched nationwide protests. To that end, the government declared a state of emergency, which will continue into 2017. Thus far, over 11,000 people have been detained. The grievances of the protesters basically come down to the disproportionate representation of the ruling Tigray faction within the national government. Ethnic Tigrayans account for a little over 6% of the total population, yet they hold most of the decision-making governmental bodies and promote a Chinese-style authoritarian capitalism. Meanwhile, Oromos and Amharas, who represent 34% and 27% of the total population respectively, have little say in the government's decisions. All in all, the crackdown on dissidents will continue in 2017. However, stopping the unrest will be difficult since the opposition movement lacks a coordinating body, and this pattern of behavior suggests that Ethiopia is entering a long-term stage of instability. In the meantime, the Djibouti-Addis Ababa Railway, which is a Chinese-financed and constructed project, will start regular service in 2017. An estimated 90% of Ethiopia's trade goes through Djibouti, so the new railway will enhance those logistical operations and strengthen the economy. Further, in the Horn of Africa, in late 2016, Somalia conducted its first parliamentary election since 1984, as well as presidential elections which brought forth a new progressive head of the state. Both elections were still riddled with fraud, violence, and corruption. However, in a country plagued by civil war, militancy, and poverty, any form of government is a welcoming development. In fact, this may very well be the most positive news to come out of Africa in 2017. President Farmajo will need to maintain the power balance between the presidency and the parliament, and another task that will fall upon him is to acquire international support for the African Union's peacekeeping mission in Somalia. Currently, the 22,000-strong peacekeeping force is facing budget cuts as well as a retreat by participating nations. The exit of military contingents from the peacekeeping mission complicates matters for the African Union, and without international support, Al-Shabaab will regain power at the expense of the government in Somalia. Elsewhere in the heart of Africa, the Democratic Republic of Congo will enter a new chapter in its history. In late 2016, the Congolese Catholic Church put forth a treaty to solve the nation's political crisis. As of this writing, President Kabila has yet to sign the treaty, which calls him to step down after new elections are held in 2017 or 2018. Even though many things can go wrong, in 2017 the primary concern will be to prepare the nation for elections. However, since the country lacks electoral experience, international support will be essential for the peaceful transition of power in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Another major change in 2017 is the retirement of President Dos Santos in Angola, who has been in power since 1979. Recently, the 74-year-old ruler announced his intention to step down in 2018. However, before doing so, Dos Santos proposed for the defense minister Lourenço to take over the leadership of the ruling MPLA party. This makes many believe that Lourenço is Angola's next designated president. Given the fact that Lourenço has extensive connections within the ruling party and that he was appointed by Dos Santos, the transition of power is expected to go smoothly. One more long-time ruler is President Mugabe in Zimbabwe. However, unlike his Angolan counterpart, the 92-year-old Mugabe has no intention to step down. Opposition against the president has been growing over the years, but so has Mugabe's grip over national institutions. Equally important, the economy is faltering due to a cash shortage and high employment rates, and so as a result, the lead up to the 2018 elections will be met with uncertainty. As things are, Vice President Mnangagwa, who enjoys support from the ruling party as well as from the country's security forces, is the most likely candidate to succeed Mugabe. With Mnangagwa in power, Zimbabwe is expected to open up to the world. In South Africa, the most industrialized and stable country in the continent, the government will struggle with its own share of issues. Last year, the African National Congress, or ANC for short, made considerable losses in the municipal elections, mostly due to the corruption scandals involving top political officials. It still remains the largest political party in the country, but given the poor economic conditions, the ruling party is expecting greater losses in the foreseeable future, and it is for this reason that President Zuma plans to promote social benefits to regain public support, as well as to appease the left-wing elements within his own party. On the other hand, right-wing ANC officials seek to challenge President Zuma's presidency during the party's leadership congress in December 2017. In the months leading up to the ANC Congress, disputes between left and right-wing political members will increase, and it will be up to President Zuma to maintain the integrity of the ruling party. There are many more unresolved conflicts, treaties, and projects in Africa, but the ones disclosed in this report will determine the course of the continent in 2017. This was a Caspian report by me, Shirvan. I just want to thank our supporters on Patreon for their contributions, and if you want to help our channel grow and produce more content, please visit patreon.com/CaspianReport. And if you don't have the means, please continue to watch and share this report. In any case, thank you for watching, and Sahel.